So straight off the bat, I realized that a lot of this comes from the very, very loud minority quarter of the internet, but it's a conversation. If somebody's going to have a conversation, I like to join in as well, but apparently we have a bloodline problem. It's certainly true if your name is Cody Rhodes. Now, the main thing we have to talk about is this amazing image that WWE have launched in support of SummerSlam. It is the greatest poster we have had in ages. Now, obviously, they look badass and they look cool. I understand what we are trying to do here, but I'm going to keep making this joke until I'm dead. How are we going to reverse out of that alleyway? That's the first thing that I saw when I did think it, and then I thought of this. Because I'm an idiot. I'm a goober. I'm a goof, and I do apologize for doing that. But yes, once as always, we had SmackDown last night, and the whole thing was basically centered around Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu and the Gorillas of Destiny, because we're heading into SummerSlam, and it's confirmed now. Given that Solo did pin Cody at Money in the Bank, we are now doing Sikoa versus Cody for the WWE title at SummerSlam, or Hot WrestleMania. Please do forgive me. So many people were mad that that was the finish. I understand being annoyed at the order of the matches. Maybe we shouldn't have ended with Cody Rhodes getting beaten, because it made the pay-per-view premium live event feel a little bit flat, but at the same time, it was just simple story stuff. And if you put a gun to my head before all of this, as always, I've been like, what are you doing, dude? I'm a geek. I'll talk about wrestling with you. But I presume that is how it was going to go, because it is simple storytelling. Solo Sikoa now feels like he is justified to ask for a championship match because he pinned Cody, and he must have been the first guy since WrestleMania 40, so that was a pretty damn big deal. But I suppose it all comes down to the fact that some people just don't feel like Solo Sikoa, to use their words, has the aura. It just totally goes over my head. It makes me feel like I'm taking crazy pills. It kind of makes me feel like I'm watching a different show. Now, I think he's doing a great job. I think he comes across exactly how he's meant to come across, which is somebody who was trying to step into Roman Reigns' shoes, but is not able to do it properly. And this ties into Jacob Fatu as well, because people are, oh my gosh, Jacob Fatu, he's outshining Solo Sikoa. I think that's what you're meant to take away from this, because we go back to Money in the Bank. What happened? I mean, the Bloodline were getting their asses whipped until Jacob Fatu went crazy and he murdered everybody. What happens on SmackDown before Solo Sikoa comes to the ring with Tanga Toma and Tangaloa? That's not their names, but that's just what came out of my mouth. Jacob Fatu not only clears the ring of DIY, Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, who had just had a second pretty good tag team title match, but after Cody Rhodes starts throwing bombs and Randy Orton comes out to make the save, who is the guy running around once again doing most of the work for the Bloodline? It is Jacob Fatu. You're meant to think he's crazy. You're meant to think he's bonkers. And eventually, as is the way with all of wrestling, Solo will have his match with Cody. He'll have a match with Roman, who I presume is coming back at SummerSlam. That's going to be awesome. And then it'll be Jacob Fatu that steps into that position. And hopefully, when the Bloodline is all dead and gone and ended, and we've finished it up, you have a star in Solo Sikoa. You have a star in Jacob Fatu, who could absolutely go on to be a WWE champion. And you can do whatever you want with Tama Tonga and Tongaloa. They're doing great jobs. I mean, they could be the tag team champions. One of them could be an Intercontinental or US champion, especially Tama Tonga. Just copy what we did in New Japan, and you've got another star on your hands. So I don't think we have a Bloodline problem at all. In fact, I think WWE has done such a terrific job with this. When Roman Reigns does return, again, probably at Hot WrestleMania, he is going to get one of the biggest pops of the modern era. And what did he do? He did nothing. He just went home to sleep around and play Nintendo. And we've done this by killing Jimmy Uso and killing off Paul Heyman. And really, in terms of the story, given that we have not heard from Mr. Reigns, he's still an emotional manipulator. He's still a sociopath. He's still a bad person. Don't forget what he did to Jimmy, what he did to Jay, what he did to Paul for all of those years, what he did to Cody, and so on and so forth. Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens. But I think because Bloodline 2.0 have been so successful as kind of pivoting on and moving the story and shifting the narrative, that now we are desperate for Roman Reigns to come back. He should return in exactly the same way that he was before. All we need to change with him is who his opponents now are. He's the babyface, and there's a bunch of heels that he can beat up. And you absolutely want to see him versus Solo. You want to see him versus Jacob Fatu. Maybe we get to a point where we do him versus Cody Rhodes again, him versus Randy Orton, whatever it may be. You just have to tell good stories. Like, that's what WWE, I think, is really awesome at the moment, ever since we have had this new era, is planting the seeds, right? Because what happened on SmackDown last night too? Cody Rhodes was sat in the locker room. He's all sad, panda, because he's having such a hard time. Because he did lose, and there should be consequences to your actions. When Randy Orton comes and sits next to him, and he basically goes, yeah, you know, it really sucks what's happening right now, but I've got your back, and Kevin Owens has got your back. But let's not forget, when we have done away with the Bloodline, people are still going to want your championship. And he may as well go, not me. I don't want a championship. But some people do. Of course, he is referencing him, because when we do get into 2025, and maybe when the Bloodline's done, or when it's not done, whenever feels right, we are going to go right into that Cody-Randy feud. And not only can we use all the stuff that we're doing right now, but of course we can go back 10, 15 years, wherever it may be, and go over everything they did back in Legacy 2. So I love the layering. I love the nuance is the word that I always like to use. And I don't think a lot of this would be working if it wasn't for how excellent the Bloodline 2.0 have become. And we have created 3 new stars here. We just have. Like, some people like to sort of act like they aren't working as a unit, and you are allowed that opinion, of course you are. I'm just saying, as I do sit here on my soapbox, I just don't see it. I don't see it, and I think they come across like a proper threat. Solo Sikoa comes across as a, what's the word I'm looking for, but a not a difficult leader, a fallible leader. You know, somebody who doesn't feel as grand or as royal or as regal as Roman Reigns did. And so to compensate for that, he will surround himself with genuinely crazy people, but deep down in his tum-tum, that's right, I'm pretending that wrestling is all deep and stuff. He knows this, which is why he has to overcompensate in other areas. It's small penis syndrome. Not saying he has a small penis, I do not know, but that's essentially the same thought process, and yes, I do regret saying it. So I really enjoy it. Cody Rhodes just being a babyface that everybody loves is always going to put a smile on my face. And also, quick aside too, sending all the love to Kevin Steen's family, Kevin Owens' family. He wasn't on the show because I assume he's still by the bedside of his mother who was sick, as he told us last week. So I just hope everything is going to go okay there. But I'm very excited for Solo versus Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam. People like to pretend it's not a big enough match. I disagree entirely. Gunther said this. I believe it was an interview with the Gorilla Position. We have to build new stars, and the only way to do that is to put people in big events against big opponents. That's why I'm glad that it is Gunther versus Damian Priest. Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins and CM Punk don't need the World Championship right now. They are stars no matter whether they have a title or not, whereas those two are going to benefit massively if they go out onto a stage like that and absolutely smash it. And it's the same for Solo too. I mean, even if they had the worst match ever, which they don't do, if SummerSlam ends with Roman Reigns coming out to Hala Siva, people are just going to be over the moon, and they're going to be excited. And sure, when that momentum dies off or the adrenaline dies off, we'll get into it. But you will still feel like it was worth your time and it was worth your money. So I'm very excited about the road to SummerSlam, which is not a thing. It's the road to WrestleMania. I'm convinced now that Nia Jax is going to beat Bayley because, of course, Tiffany Stratton comes out on SmackDown. She's like, oh my gosh, and the Money in the Bank winner. But now she does have this relationship with Nia Jax, and they're acting like they're friends, but Bayley is trying to drive a wedge between them. But it also kind of feels like we're doing Tiffany Stratton versus Trish Stratus at SummerSlam because Tiffany keeps mentioning Trishy time when it should be Tiffy time. And because WWE does like to take their time, I need to come up with new words, I need a better vocabulary. I don't think we need to cash anything in at SummerSlam. I think that's way too soon, especially because we've already got rid of the men's Money in the Bank. So, you know, I would do Tiffany Stratton helping Nia Jax to become the champion, screw over Bayley, then we can have some fun with all that too. I guess Michi could get involved, should you so wish. Then you have the champion, and you have the Money in the Bank holder. You can ride that out for 6 months. It can be like a Miz and Mizdow relationship, and then you get to the Royal Rumble, even WrestleMania, if you have enough narrative up your tuchus, and it's Tiffany Stratton that eventually does cash in on Nia Jax, or whoever may have the title, and she walks away with it. I really did like the fact that we teased it here, because I felt that it represented Tiffany Stratton's character perfectly. Like, her and Nia Jax had beaten up Bayley, and they were leaving. They were gone. So as soon as Nia Jax had left the ring, Tiff was like, why wouldn't I do it now? And it's Jax who calms it down. So that was good. Everything Chelsea Green did on this show was brilliant. Didn't even come out in front of the crowd, but just selling her injuries and being funny. And we also got it confirmed. Another match was SummerSlam. That's how close we are now, 3 weeks away or whatever it is. LA Knight versus Logan Paul. There's no need to overthink this one either. It should be nice and straightforward. We're in Logan Paul's hometown, so maybe you can do something fun with that. LA Knight beats him. Don't care how, don't care if there's shenanigans, don't care if he cheats, don't care if it's a screw job, don't care what it is. He just has to turn up on that SmackDown after SummerSlam as the United States Champion, because he comes out here, people still go crazy. He didn't say much with his promo, but it was damn entertaining because that's just what he does when he is holding a microphone. It's time to coronate him, and it's time to Gunther the US title like we did on Raw, and LA Knight should be the guy, because then you are doing something a little bit too, because he's just a super duper over friendly babyface. So just love LA Knight, love everything he does. Really enjoyed the tag match before Jacob Fatu killed them all. I thought it was going to be when Grayson Waller and Austin Theory officially split up, and we teased that, right? They smacked into each other at one point, they hit each other at one point, and they were going to have a big argument afterwards before they did get Fatus. And I guess the match will be at SummerSlam, unless they're really going to hold off the breakup, but I doubt it. And look, Grayson Waller is not going to go babyface. It's not going to work. Maybe one day in the future, but a long way in the future. Whereas Austin Theory, we've been doing this dance for a while. I do believe we've talked about this before, so let me know in the comments, and make sure you subscribe. I think we should make him not a goofy heel. I know Goofy Wrestling for Life, my 1-2 t-shirts, go to Pro Wrestling Tees right now. I don't mean he should walk around doing comedy, but when he was down in NXT with the family, he had kind of a stupid side to him, but it worked and it made him lovable and it gave him that sympathetic edge, not Adam Copeland, that you do need. And he's been a heel on the main roster for so long, and you could argue, and I think we could get into it, that it's never clicked as intended. I do think there's a bigger upside that we haven't seen yet, and it could just be one of those things where he just hasn't been portrayed in the right way. Totally understand why we went the arrogant heel route, but he's in the US Championship run, which was okay, the Money in the Bank run was okay, but I think there's more here, and I think he could turn into a bigger star, and maybe that is just by him going babyface. It's the reverse Rock, right? It's the reverse Roman Reigns. We've tried all the other things, so now let's switch it. Kind of like Baron Corbin. Now, I don't believe this to be Baron Corbin's fault. I think you can go through any time in Baron Corbin's career, and he has done exactly what has been asked of him, but sometimes he's been given dumb creative. And then when you do give him an amazing character like Sad Corbin, he knocks it out the park. Goes to NXT, knocks it out the park. And there, by happenstance or by choice, he's become a babyface, which I don't think many people would have penciled him in for. He's now on the main roster with Apollo Crews, had that tag match on SmackDown against the Legado del Fantasma, where they just grabbed each other and just threw themselves as projectiles. Then Santos Escobar and Elektra Lopez screw them over. But I like this team. I think there's something there. And when you do look at the tag team divisions on SmackDown, Raw, and the women's, we have to load it up with bodies. We just do. I mean, I'm now starting to think that maybe the Gorillas of Destiny are going to become the tag team champions, because Solo did drop that in, and of course Jacob Fatu just murdered everyone. But then you need to have people ready to go, and Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews could be one of those teams. Now, it would be sad because I don't believe the Bloodline would lose them anytime soon. But it was just so, Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews to me are very similar. They're people that should be being used. I just really like, so to see them finally in that spot, well, it makes me feel warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum, and I hope it's something that we have a plan for and we can continue on with, which is the same for Blair Davenport. Now, I've become a little bit of a negative Nancy, you'll have to forgive me. But it does start to feel to me like we didn't necessarily have a proper plan for Blair Davenport where she did get called up. Absolutely, she deserved it. She's more than ready to go. But she takes on Naomi here, not in her first proper match because she was in one of those qualifiers, but she didn't win. Now that was a double-edged sword because Naomi winning is always going to make me happy. We've got a video going up soon. If we do introduce the Women's Intercontinental and US Champions, Naomi should be a contender. She should be in that conversation. She deserves it. So her getting a victory is a thumbs up. And even though Blair Davenport did attack her afterwards, I'm like, I can't believe that was the plan when she did get called up from NXT. Now she's in the mix. She's being featured on TV. She's going to be more than fine. But I just keep my fingers crossed that we do something here, because the women's division throughout WWE, all the way down to NXT, especially because they just signed Stephanie McCool, is awesome. And who said it this week? It was Bayley. We've got to make sure we have stories that are more about just fighting for a championship. And that is hopefully what Naomi and Blair Davenport can become. Let's get into the nitty gritty. Let's talk about Naomi being or walking out of the company. Let's find something about Blair that we can talk about and go inside baseball, really make it feel personable. And then it can be a feud that we look forward to. Maybe not of the same ilk, but I thought Raw did very well with the Karrion Kross New Day stuff. And that was just kind of like a secondary food that popped up. You're like, oh, I'm interested in this. Let's try and elongate and stretch out this stuff between Naomi and Blair Davenport, and then it will be good stuff, I think. And I think they'll both benefit from being in that position. And we teased another feud, Andrade versus Carmelo Hayes, because they interrupted each other's interviews. And you never do that in WWE because things go badly. I also want to manifest this too, the word of this video. I need that Pretty Deadly the musical. This is the third week they've talked about it, and they were queuing up to talk to Nick Aldis about it, and they fell out with Chelsea Green, even though she should absolutely be in Pretty Deadly the musical. But make that happen too. Not really sure how that's going to translate to SummerSlam. You'd imagine that Pretty Deadly would probably be in a match if they're being featured. Maybe they do the musical live, and it's one of the greatest things ever. But I presume as we are around about 3 weeks, 4 weeks out, we do Carmelo Hayes versus Andrade. That will be a really good match, and it is a pick'em too, because Andrade needs wins and Carmelo needs wins. We'll have to see where it's going to go. But a very good episode of SmackDown. What I like most about it is that it's focusing us towards SummerSlam. There was nothing like the Bloodline taking out Paul Heyman, but everything they needed to do, they did do, and we got people involved. And now, obviously, as we go back to Raw 2, we can start focusing on all our World Championship plans. But I presume the matches are going to be Cody versus Solo, Gunther versus Damian Priest, and then something with CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, and Seth Rollins, which could be crazy. Or maybe you keep Seth Rollins off the show. Or maybe you keep Randy Orton off the show after he was murdered here. It kind of sucks because they are superstars, but I think there's a massive benefit to that as well, because then when they do appear on these shows, oh my gosh, absence does make the heart grow fonder. And of course, we've got Bayley versus Nia Jax, probably Tiffany Stratton versus Trish Stratus, and there'll be other things that I'm not thinking of right now. Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair are definitely going to do something. They bumped into Naomi there, and they all did the Dance of Joy, which I always get a kick out of. And given that Jacob Fatu just whooped the ass of, DIY, maybe it's Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga who win the tag team titles at SummerSlam. Now, I have said that. You know what? I'm going with it. More important than all of this, though, is I need to know what you are thinking about SummerSlam right now and SmackDown. Maybe you didn't like it. Maybe you agreed there's a Bloodline problem and I need some help. Well, the only way I can figure this out is if you drop me a comment below, and then please do interact with the video. Like the video, share the video, subscribe. That's the big one. Number goes up, makes me pleased. Click the notification bell so you know when other videos are going live, and bam, there's a video on the screen right now, and it is indeed me taking your hot takes. You can also go to GorillaMind.com/Simon. Use code Simon to get 10% off. These are fitness supplements I do like. If you want a t-shirt, it's Pro Wrestling Tees or Samson Athletics. Patreon.com/Simon316. Go to Agogo Fitness and sign up for his fitness app and use the code Simon20 to get money off there as well. Shout out to Anthony Agogo, really good guy. Simon316 if you want to come talk to me on social media. Simon J. Miller on TikTok. Simon Miller on Cameo for a personalized video message. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it there because it's way too much self-promotion. Take care, my friends. Goodbye.